Sounds good. So welcome to the Select Board Board of Health Sewer Commissioners meeting in conjunction with the Finance Committee for August 18th, 2025 for the town of Deerfield at 5 p.m. or 5:03 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting, Zoom and in the main meeting room. This meeting will be held in a hybrid fashion with the opportunity for both in-person attendance and remote participation. Please note that while an option for remote attendance or participation is being provided as a courtesy of the public, the meeting or hearing will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with a particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The meeting will be held in person in the main meeting room of the Deerfield Municipal Offices in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 38. Anyone intending to record the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record. So I will turn it over to the Finance Committee to open their meeting.
Hey, I'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order at 5:04 p.m.
Thank you. So we've called this meeting together. It's been a while, so hello. So good to see you all again. I hope you're having a good summer. We wanted to talk a couple of issues. Were the South County Senior Center funding for the feasibility study and building renovations, lease payments. Some of that may be early, but just wanted to talk to you about where we're at in that process. And then I know Christopher's going to talk a lot about the possible warrant articles and try to settle on a date for the fall town meeting if we could. So I'll give a little bit of an update of where we're at on the feasibility study. So as you know, we had done we had a grant to do a feasibility study for two areas. Turned out to be the Whately town offices and this space here. That was through a grant. So EDM had done the work on those and kind of completed that work. Came up with some costs if we were going to do a new building based on the needs assessment that we had done. And so in the meantime, building at 112 Amherst Road, which is the old Warner Brothers offices, just past the Sugarloaf Frosty, the owner reached out to us to say, hey, we have a building that will be open and could possibly work for your three-town senior center, South County Senior Center. So that was intriguing to us because it had a lot of square footage and it's a fairly good, good buildings, got great parking, a lot of good features to it, but we don't know whether it would serve as a senior center for certain, ADA accessibility and what would need to be done. So we had reached out, the Boo had reached out to EDM and said, for bare bones, what could we kind of come together? Could you evaluate this space? Could it work as a senior center? If it could, what would it need? I think the change of use would need to happen for the space. And then would that entail, it does have an elevator now that, employee used for many years there, but if it's a senior center, would we need to update that elevator to a larger space? We would want to do a kind of a commercial kitchen on the first floor. What would that take? Just trying to get an idea of if this space would work for us and how much the cost would be to do that. And so they had put a bid together of about, I think it was just around $10,000 to do the evaluation of that space. And they're ready to get started and look at that and get moving. Whately and Sunderland had voted some free cash or cash that they had to match to help us with this. And then we have several ways that we could fund it. One of the ways is that we have an existing money in an account that a fund that the town had approved several years back to do a feasibility and a needs assessment. And there is money left over in that account. So I thought we'd love to do that. What we were hoping to do was also have a CIPC meeting, but that board couldn't get together today. So we're hoping to still have that meeting with them to see if they would approve. We had sent the language of that request to Lisa to look at to see if it was broad enough that we could use that funding for this. And she thought it was, but she would recommend that we bring it before the CIPC board to have them revote to use the money on this specific place. The language was kind of for a needs assessment feasibility study and possible, in parentheses, and the existing building or the church building at the time, but it wasn't really specifically any spot. So we used that money to do a needs assessment, working, if everyone remembers, working with UMass Boston. They helped us kind of do a bunch of surveys and stuff to see what the seniors would need in our community. So that's kind of where we're at the moment on that. We're just going to talk about where we're at in the process and bring you guys up to speed and see what you had for questions on that. And then there's, if this space works for us, could be used, then we would want to talk about what kind of remodeling we would need to do. We'll get that out of this study, and then again, if it could be used, we would enter into a lease. Talking with the owner, they would want a longer lease if possible, and then they are open to a lot of different ways that we could do that, as far as they could remodel, do what we need to have done, and our lease payment would factor that in. So they're open to really anything working with us. They would, it's easy enough for them to go get well, not easy enough, but they could go get a private entity in there. But the owner really has seen our struggles in the paper and really wanted to see if this could be an option for us. So was willing to work with the municipalities, and it does understand like our constraints and the time it takes and the meetings and the process, and is willing. He would love to have something in place by the end of the year. That's, it's a little tight. So the talk is, could we get something on town meeting for at least for, to fund for the lease, if it worked. So the idea is to kind of get moving on evaluating the space as fast as we can to see if we can get something on, on the fall town meeting. So that's what I have so far. I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Does that kind of capture it where we're at?
Yeah, no, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm not in charge.
Oh, no, please go ahead. Yeah, I'd love your help to,
How much is left in that account for the feasibility
I
study?
think it's
do you
like
know?
30. I want to say it's like
Okay. So
34,000.
it's plenty to cover as well.
Yes.
And the 10,000 is the total, and we
Is-
would pay 60%,
Correct.
54%
Roughly,
or whatever
yeah,
it is.
exactly. Yep.
Is there a lease to buy option on the table?
There is, he said lease to buy, just lease with renovations. He's really willing to work with us in any way that would make it possible for us. But yes, it's a great building. I'm not, it's up to the town if we'd want to buy. And the hard part is who buys it? Does Sunderland need to buy it because it's in their town, or do we as a fiscal agent? Our South County Senior Center isn't really set up to own anything. We're not a consortium or a district. We have been talking about, should we become that, providing something comes up in the future, but that's still early for us.
Is it the whole building, or are we just talking about a portion of the building that
It-
the feasibility people decide,
Yeah.
talk about what's
It-
too big or too little?
Yeah, the question was, is it the whole building or just a portion? It is the whole building. It's around 10,000 square feet. There is a lower level. It looks like a two-floor building, but there is in the back, you can drive under, and there's a lower area, which we would put the commercial kitchen in. And then there's the first floor, which is offices, kind of split up, more smaller offices and break rooms and that kind of thing, and some bathrooms. And then on the top floor, there are offices as well, but more, that's the larger space. That would be the large exercise room or gathering room or that kind of thing. So it seems to fit really good for what we need. I mean, if we were building something new, it would be different, but it does, the space fits very well for us, and could even fit other items, other entities.
Well, that's what I was wondering, yes.
Nursing, that kind of thing. There's plenty of room for all of those kind of entities in there.
But the idea is to take over the whole building.
Correct.
Just part.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, you said about driving underneath? Like garage?
Now to drive, if you go around back,
Right.
the
Then you said
there's kind of a swale down below.
So you can enter from the back.
You can enter
You
from
can
the back.
enter underneath.
On ground
There's,
level.
there's an access door,
Walking.
couple of windows. Few windows have light in the back, but mostly it's just most of it's underground.
Do you have any idea how, like what percentage or how many people who typically use the senior center are mobility impaired, either in a wheelchair or have difficulty walking?
Probably Jen might have that
Yeah.
data a little bit more than me. I don't think I mean, there's a lot that probably have walkers and that kind of thing. And there's a lot that are able up and down the stairs, no problem, I'm sure. But there are a few that would definitely want to be able to, I don't know how many are in like a wheelchair versus, but I mean, I guess if
But even
there's,
somebody with the walker isn't gonna walk up a
Yeah,
flight of stairs.
correct,
Yeah.
they would want to take the elevator. Yep.
So would this building be able to satisfy all of the space needs of South County Senior Center? 'Cause I
Yes.
know right now they are spread out in several different buildings.
It would allow us to do everything and more, I think, yeah, we'd be able to grow into that space and use it for quite a long time. I mean, there's always a wish to have more stuff and more space, but it's way more than than we'd ever dreamed of right now and have the ability for. So I think the way it's split up too would function really well for us. We'd probably have to remodel and do kind of an ADA bathroom, possibly a shower, in case, there's a need for that as somebody needs changing or something. And light remodeling for some of the offices, for nurses' space and stuff, but most of it the building has been remodeled maybe 5 or 6 years ago. They did all new air handlers, a new carpeting. There's some carpeting would need to take out in that space for the exercise area, but if you go in, a lot of it is really up to date, like the break rooms, kitchens, those areas that they used for the employees are all brand new, and it really is in nice shape, and it's well maintained. The building is from the early 70s, but it's in really good shape. They've definitely maintained it well over the years.
I mean, my personal opinion, it's worth doing a feasibility study. A lot of the other questions, what is a lease to own? What are they going to do before we move in? Those are questions that don't need to be answered right now, in my estimation. It's either these are the experts on senior centers, and they're going to say, the elevator's got to be totally redone or whatever. And it would tell us a lot more about, well, the building looks nice to me as a layman, but is it really a good building for us to be in?
Right.
And that's not something I can answer.
I've been in the building and it seems, it seems like it's in great shape. It seems like very nice space, nice open space. The 2-floor thing with the small elevator is a little worrisome.
It is worth.
I would like to see, I totally support doing a feasibility study.
Mhm.
I would also like to see a feasibility study done for this building that we're sitting in right now. It's all on one floor. It has really good entrance and exit. It has, this huge room, but also the office rooms are really big.
Yeah.
It feels like it would be a good match for a senior center, especially the all on one floor idea.
Sure.
And if there's, just making stuff up now, but if there's that much money left in that feasibility account and it costs 10,000 to do a feasibility for that building,
Mhm.
can we get them to do a feasibility for this building also?
We can ask for
Just
sure.
to see.
Yeah.
The nice thing about that building is that it's available right now.
Correct.
This building would be, I don't know what, 2028 maybe.
Yeah.
That it would be available. But-
So the question I have is that, because this is a public building now, would we be able to get into grant money from the state to renovate this building as opposed to that one, which is privately owned? Is there a difference between that as to what we could do here as far as funding goes?
I'm
It's
not really sure.
gonna
any-
dep-
Well, I know that
on the
there's been
grant,
some,
right?
there's been some towns that have gotten money to upgrade buildings, and the state has given them up to $1 million. So, I mean, I think Berniston Fire was one of them that did it, and I'm just wondering if there's a chance we have that type of capability to do that here, because again, our legislation, no, we're struggling as well. And this building, you know, again, I've been told that it's in tough shape, but I've been in here for a year and a half and it still works. So I'm just, that's my question. And the other part of it was that when I first came on board was that the church was being renovated so that the seniors could go in there. The library's getting moved over, and the library has space where the seniors could go in there if we have to do temporary stuff. You know, they could do their programs and that stuff over there. So I was just wondering about it. I'm in favor of doing a feasibility study of this building in Sunderland as well. But I'd like to see if there's something that we have here, because this building is going to go idle, and then eventually it's going to have to be torn down. So I was just wondering if there's something we could do with it.
Feels like-
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in terms of the state funding piece, you know, the funding source we had potentially explored for renovations of this building was an ADA municipal improvement grant. And those are usually around, you know, max about $200,000. If you wanted to look at an earmark or something like that, obviously that could be more. But you know, I think to Julie's point, you know, that does mean waiting a little bit longer. So that is a consideration.
I agree that this building could potentially suit a senior center, but we've talked probably much longer than I've been on the finance committee about the problems this building has.
Yeah.
And it's not just ADA. You're
Right.
talking about air handling,
Mhm.
heating systems. There would have to be a lot of money put in. So would a feasibility study actually address the required cost to upgrade these systems so that they work for however long we have a senior center?
Do you want to answer? I think it would, I mean, we would have to factor that into that. I know that they did this feasibility kind of on the cheap for us to kind of get us in quick and based on all the work that they already know about us. And hopefully they could get us a number here. It might be, I think, my guess is it would be a higher than 10,000 to evaluate this one too, but I still think we do have the money. Maybe it's 15 or something like that, or we could at least ask what it would take. They've looked at this space somewhat, a little bit, when they did the original one. I know they were talking about tearing it down and redoing it, but yes, we would need to kind of evaluate like windows. That's the main thing. Everyone's so hot, the air handling that. But I think that stuff could be worked on and solved. And we talked about inlaying this floor, right, and dealing with the kitchens and other areas. But
We
yeah,
had a
it could-
study done, an evaluation
Yeah.
done of the building by GRLA in 2021. And they looked at, I mean, we had an estimate from that study in 2021, so it would
Yep.
be more now, that looked at a 20-year timeline of repairs and upgrades to the building. So some of it's already escalated. And that was like 1.3 million,
Mhm.
maybe 1.4. So it would be, I think, more than that now. But
Good
it's a
pitch.
ballpark. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of the problems with this building can be solved with insulation.
Yeah.
Like new windows would be a big part of it. Go ahead.
So Trevor, you mentioned it was still not clear which entity would be signing the lease, but that is kind of important because
A
I mean,
lease would be Deerfield
so
because we're the,
town of Deerfield. would
yeah,
be
we're the
leasing that
fiscal
building.
agent.
How about this building?
No, I'm talking about the Warner Construction.
Anything that we do currently,
own
we're the
this.
fiscal agent, so we would sign the lease and assess the other two towns their costs for it.
But
But purchasing a building is a different
but-
story.
yeah, but okay, so Deerfield would be leasing the Warner Construction building on behalf of the South County Senior Center, but the South County Senior Center is a joint operation, so we would still need to get the approval of
Correct.
the Board of Oversight,
Correct.
all three towns.
Yes. And the select boards as
Right,
well.
so that would have to come first, obviously.
That's, yeah, I mean, it's what we're doing now. We're
Okay.
leasing from the same entity
Yeah.
currently. So it's really just changing the lease to another building and, you know, we have to go out with an RFP. Anybody would need to be able to, you know, bid on that, our request. But yes, we would be the entity to do that. And then all three towns are planning a fall town meeting to, if this building is viable, you know, are they willing to raise the amount of money needed to pay the lease for 10 years? You know, we have to kind of come up, and that's a big chunk of money. So we all have to kind of, is the building worth it? Do we want to do this?
Worry about location at all?
Are people worried about
Right.
location?
Greater number of people, shorter distance travel, probably somewhere in Deerfield.
You know,
Downtown.
yeah, that's been a concern. It's close. I mean, it really, I mean, there's a bit of this is we are a 3-town community, so it's, you know, it's not that far to get there for everybody. Most people are gonna drive anyways. Most people don't walk to the senior center no matter what. So I think yeah, another story, yeah. If we had a nice, but we don't have like another space. This building is just that we're looking at right now, kind of like fills all the needs. It puts it to bed. We're not looking at building a brand new building or remodeling anything else. It's kind of like, it's the best option we have seen in a very long, since I've been on the board, of a place that we could put everything under one roof and just every time we do a project, well, what about the seniors? Well, what about the seniors? And this would answer that. And for, I think, short money compared to whatever came out of that feasibility study, even though it was unrealistic to do, but I think it would give everybody a home. It would give all of our seniors a home. I think if you talk to most seniors, they're like, yes, we want to be in there, whether they're Deerfield, Sunderland, or Whately. The consensus that I've heard so far is that they would be very excited to be in that space.
Okay, but devil's advocate, worst case here,
Mhm.
what if the town meeting doesn't like the idea of approving the South County
Yeah.
Senior Center budget on an ongoing basis like
Then
that?
then we don't go. It's up to the people. Yep. And we're where we are right now.
Offset against the potential cost people were talking about, right, for a new building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pipeline project.
Or this
It's
down the
definitely a
road.
far better idea, in my opinion, than building a new
Well,
building at $20 million.
I
whatever
guess
it is.
but, okay, devil's advocate though. The thing is, leasing this would show up in our assessment to the South County Senior
Right.
Center.
Correct.
Building construction doing work on this would be interest payments.
Right.
So it would be a little.
And it
more-
could be debt excluded.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
It would not be
taxes are
so
gonna be
obvious.
tight. Yeah,
I'm not saying that's a good thing.
yeah.
So we can vote on this or just
I think
exploding the
Yeah.
town council use of those monies?
Right, I think, yeah, that's really we're gonna have a meeting with Capital Improvement Planning Committee to get their approval on that. I think we would like to vote this, as a select board, vote this to move forward tonight, and whether we use that or contracted services or free cash or something, we're gonna have to take it to annual fall town meeting anyways, correct? Or are we gonna, I mean, we could fund it from contracted services and then
And then do a
replenish, do
transfer
a
at special
transfer
town meeting.
later.
Exactly.
it's the urgency of getting them in that space. We've had the estimate for a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, and they're like, you gotta get moving, and then, and we know we gotta get moving, so it's,
That's what I'm saying. So what steps do we need to do to get that approved?
it's the select board needs to vote to approve the contract.
Okay. And why is IPC involved? Their money?
If we were gonna use that pot of money to pay for it versus contracted services, we can figure out that. But I think if we're gonna use that pot of money to pay our portion, then we want them to bless us to do that, because
Their
they're
a lot of money.
because that language that was voted in 3 or 4 years ago didn't really nail down that space over there. It nailed down a feasibility study and an assessment. So and the lawyer thought it was broad enough that we could use the money for that, but she said, you really should take the extra step and have CIPC bless us using that money there.
And there are a lot of ways we could fund it. I mean, if we did contracted services now and then at special town meeting, we financed it another way, even with the CIPC approval on the funds that are already set aside. We just need to know whether we want to sign this contract. And you
Yeah.
brought up
So-
we also brought up the possibility of having them do the same sort of assessment here, but have we already done that? Do we want to,
No,
an
we-
updated one?
I think you would need to do one
Yeah.
specifically for the seniors.
So we could request, I could ask the Boo to request from EDM to give us an estimate what it would take to do this here and then bring that back to us to vote
Yeah,
as
I
a
mean, we
separate
can-
item, just to keep
yeah,
it moving
yeah,
over there.
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's worth addressing for sure. Whether the Boo wants to move here down the road anyways, it's up to us whether we want to
Yeah.
assess, we want to use it or not.
Mhm.
I still
The
think it's-
10-year lease thing is interesting. So,
it is,
I mean, if it were 10-year lease, that would probably not make this building
right.
viable.
He's,
If
ins-
you did a 5-year lease, then
I think
maybe,
they're looking for,
or
especially if they're gonna do
maybe
remodeling
big
to that.
major renovation.
They want a
yeah.
long-term lease. They really want a 10-year lease with that space, so. And they said they could do longer or shorter, but it really, they just need some sort of commitment if they're gonna wait for us versus go private.
Yeah.
Trevor, we're looking at 5,400 for our share in this.
I believe so. I could get the numbers
No,
exactly.
I mean,
but
I
know
just
that
said
they've-
approximately
Yeah.
that. So that's what we're talking
sure
about, not
money.
the 10,000.
No, it's not the whole 10.
Because the other two towns have to put in as well.
Yeah, they've set some money aside, I
Okay.
know.
Would they put in for our feasibility study about this building too?
If
They-
the Boo related.
That money wasn't already, I don't think that was Deerfield's money before, or it was I don't know if it was where did we get that? It was Deerfield's money before, right, on that whole assessment, but, so if we use that, no, but I mean, we could ask them for sure if they wanted to, again, especially if this thing falls apart, they're gonna need another option too. I mean, I just feel like, I just want to know real fast what's happening over there and is it something that can be overcome or not with the elevator? Really, it's the elevator that's the hangup, I think, in my mind. And maybe they'll come up with other things that are like, no, this really can't be used, but
Have building inspector given any kind of ADA coordinator, building inspector, have they given any indication as to what the requirement would be? Or could they reach out to Executive Office of Elder Affairs to find out what the requirement would be? And
we've been trying and I don't think anyone's had a solid answer yet. I think they really assess this and tell us what it needs. So we've gotten different answers, right? I think we've gotten an answer that you're really going to need to upgrade the elevator, and other stuff in the language says, no, you can get away with these dimensions, and the dimensions just meet it. But so it's on edge. I mean,
Yeah,
it's been used, but when you change use, I think.
Yeah, it definitely feels like if you step into that elevator, like, oh, this is not quite what I'm used to.
Right.
So I'll just say that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a nice elevator. It's just small. It's just real small. Yep. So we could, we'll take that vote, I think, at either tonight, later, or, or Wednesday, we can do that too. We just really want to get your way in and talk to you a bit about what's going on there. And then do you want to talk about?
Do we want, as a finance committee, to vote to recommend
Feasibility
a
study?
feasibility study?
Would be helpful.
I will make a
we have-
motion
we
that
have a
the
specific-
finance committee recommend a feasibility study for up to $10,000
Or
for the building at 112 Amherst Street in Sunderland. Do we want,
Be potentially funded from in part, from the existing funds and from contributions from the other two.
right,
Okay, yes, I'll second that.
Yeah. we
Okay.
moved it. You can
any
move stuff.
discussion? Do we want to, like, I think we absolutely should do the feasibility study. I would really like to see a feasibility study done on this building too. I don't feel like those two things need to be tied together.
Let's make it a separate motion.
Yeah,
less cheaper and more efficient for the outfit that's doing it to do it all together.
it is, but like, if we only make the motion, provided that they also do a study here, and then that becomes difficult.
Yeah.
Like,
All right, well, we have a second.
we do have a second, Margaret seconded. Any discussion or thoughts?
I guess I'm just thinking, I mean, not so much on this.
Try and
topic.
grab the microphone.
How are we moving forward then to get a feasibility study on this building?
Make another motion.
We got to go back to the
Well, you-
boo and ask them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take that to them and I'll bring it back to you guys, for sure.
I know you're kind of unenthusiastic about that idea.
No,
but
I'm
I
not.
think it's
I'm-
really
I'm truly
important.
not. I just don't want it to slow up our answer on this
Yeah,
thing. But
yeah.
no, I'm not, because I think it's, the only hesitation I have is that I'm sitting here as the Deerfield Select Board, but I'm also chair of the BOO, and I'm always thinking of regional relationship as well. And I always have to walk a fine line to just make sure that I'm hearing these other communities and doing it regionally and participating and getting them involved in those discussions. And I think that they will want to know too, could this be a space as well? It's all in how we ask, I think, too.
Yeah.
And it's all in regional partnership for all of us long-term. So,
So,
yep.
in my opinion, the hesitation for that building is the multiple stories and the elevator.
correct.
And the whole
with you.
reason, like when we did the whole 1888 building thing, that used to be the senior center. And the whole reason that we were recommending at that point that town hall move in there and seniors come in here is because that building is 2 stories, is gonna have an elevator, and this is all one.
Yep.
So.
No, I agree.
I mean, that's,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
so,
No, I'm with you 100%.
And so the one story thing I think is really helpful
Yep.
to a senior center, especially if you have a bunch of people who have difficulty in mobility.
Yeah. Yep. And-
Julie, why don't you make another motion?
We've gotten off track. We never voted.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
After this one.
Do we have any other comments or thoughts?
My comments are, I completely agree with Trevor that it's essential.
Grab the
that
microphone.
we- Oh, I'm sorry. It's essential that we move forward with the feasibility study on that building in order to maintain the interest now and the possibility
Mhm.
that there could be a regional senior center there. So I'm all in on this particular motion.
Good. Any other discussion? All those in favor? That's unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Great. And I'll come back to you. I'll talk to them at our next meeting about also wanting to look at this space. What could we fit here? Could it meet our needs? What would need to happen on the
I mean, s-
windows?
Footage in here is as big as
Is-
square footage in that building, and it's all
Yeah.
on one floor. So the answer
Absolutely.
is yes.
Yeah, I think.
The
with-
question is whether we want to,
How do we break it up? Are the rooms big
the
enough?
timeline and, yeah, how
Yeah.
you fit in and, yeah.
I think we can make it work.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, that is a great timeline, because you've mentioned that you've described the Warner building as being ready to move in, but at the same time, we're talking about work that has to be done. What would?
No, you could move in there tomorrow for sure. I mean, short of tomorrow, like tomorrow in a week, because I mean, it's so much more space than we have right now that we could fit everything we need in there. We're talking about immediately going in and like pulling up the carpet squares to make sure that we had a floor similar to this so that you could do exercise, because you can't exercise on carpet. So there's certain things like that. There is enough bathrooms right now. There's enough space to get, it's way more than we
would
have
be-
right now.
It would be near, it would be.
Near
Effectively
instantly,
near
yep.
term.
And then we could say, okay, well, what would it take to put a kitchen in the basement? We could take it, some time to do that. If we need a nurse's station and a bathroom, maybe that would take a little bit more time, but we could still use a lot of the building and not have to be in another space during that time, I think. So, sounds reasonable anyways.
My observations about the building, having visited myself, is I find it to be, after living in a building like this with a high ceiling, or any of the buildings that they have occupied before, including whatever used to be the Whately Town Hall, they're all high ceilings. This place seems a little darker to me. It feels like it's a 7'8" high ceiling everywhere. But it is a well-maintained building. It has the second or third floor, whatever you want, the
Top floor.
top floor, that's the best way to describe it.
Mhm.
Seriously renovated, got some open space. You'd have to move out the cubicles and stuff, but The middle floor is a warren, in my estimation. It's an office warren. It's not open spaces.
Right.
So there's a lot of work that potentially needs to be done there to make it really good as a 10-year lease for a senior center, but doesn't mean it's really expensive. It's just, taking out partitions, and, respecting the structural supports that are hidden behind walls. So it's probably eminently usable as a space. I'm just expressing my reservations, the elevator,
Mhm.
and it feels a little claustrophobic to me, but
Okay. Turn it over to Christopher to jump on the other.
Sure, yeah. So we did want to chat with Finance Committee about the health insurance increases. I'm sure you've all seen in the news that we are anticipating a 20% increase starting October 1st from our insurance trust, the Hampshire County Group Insurance Trust. As I'm sure you've also seen, it's driven largely in their estimation by, the new weight loss and diabetes drugs that are out there. And they have, effective October 1st, discontinued the use of those drugs for weight loss. And they're anticipating that's coupled with the increased premiums that they're levying on the 70 or so towns and bargaining units that they provide insurance for. They believe that's going to build their reserves back up and ensure that the trust can move forward. But it was basically a stark choice between, no more trust and you have 30 days to find insurance, or vote for these premium increases. And so that's the situation all the towns are in. And I'll look back over my shoulder at Brenda in case she wants to add anything, because we had been talking about special town meeting and options there. But we are also in a better position than a lot of other communities, frankly. And given that we're a couple months into the fiscal year already, we've identified certainly some savings that can help us mitigate, that massive increase. So I would say it's not as doom and gloom as some communities. Some of the smaller communities are really in a difficult position right now, and we're sitting a little bit better position. But just wanted to see if Finance Committee members had questions, thoughts. Trevor, obviously.
Yeah,
I'd like
and
to
I'll just
something
add a
back.
little bit. I was talking with Brenda today, like, oh, so how do we tackle this? How do we fund this? Is it it's too large for reserve fund transfer? Is it a stabilization or something like that? But Brenda said we had quite a bit of savings that went back into free cash at the end of last year. And I think you were thinking somewhere around 65,000 we would maybe spend from free cash at fall town meeting to cover this shortfall. I mean, it's about 170, but we have maybe 80 or so you rolled back.
Well, it's a total of about 170, but 15,000 of that will be borne by the SCEMS Enterprise
Okay.
Fund. So we're really talking like 150,000. And I was just looking at it and wondering if Sarah had figured that it's 3/4 of the year and not
True.
a full year. So I want to ask her that question.
Yep.
But if it is the 150,000 or 148,000 that she's estimating, we did have a savings in health insurance for both the town and the school through the end of the fiscal year that put 84,000 back into free cash.
Right.
So we would have to vote, the way I see it, is vote the 148,000 out of free cash, but just knowing that 84,000 of that was free cash that we might not have had otherwise because we had a savings from fiscal 25.
Yep.
That's all.
Yep.
I wanted to clarify a couple of things. I did ask Sarah the question about whether this 148,000 was a half year or for the full year projection, and I believe she said it was full, but we should verify that. I also saw something in the press about Darius Metastow saying that Frontier has the same insurance problem, right?
Yes.
We have 50% of the Frontier deficit as well. They have a way to finance that through the schools, but we're looking at about a $300,000 problem, not a $148,000 problem. So just wanted, that's my reading of it. I could be incorrect
Yeah.
about that.
Okay. And, they have, obviously, they have lots of other funds that they can draw on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, in
Up to
the
them.
1 year scenario, it's handleable
Right.
with what they have on hand, but
next year's budget.
Right.
So, question, so the weight, you said that the weight loss drugs, they are going to be ending, we are gonna be ending any kind of, whatever for these weight loss drugs, starting when? again? May?
October 1st, yeah.
October 1st, but 20% increase due to these drugs is going to stick and not go away. Is that right? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's our understanding so far, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, yeah, so for finance committee information, for
Yeah.
our information, it's really important for us to focus on the fact that if this increase sticks, and we always anticipate another increase
For sure.
in the subsequent year, that Frontier will need that full plug. The town is going to need full funding next fiscal year. So we're looking at, you said about $300,000?
That's what I said. She
You
didn't say.
said, oh. So it's gonna be.
Between the two.
a
Yep.
chunk of money, okay. It's good to know now.
So I think the other thing you're to look at is the weight loss drugs is just one of the components here. The
Mhm.
pharmaceuticals themselves are driving up the cost of the insurance, as well as privatization of a lot of the medical staff, where they're going out on their own instead of being affiliated with hospitals and that sort of thing, and they can charge their own prices. So this is where we're running into a problem, and I don't know how to.
Mhm.
I don't know how we can fix that, but it's something to look at, especially the pharmaceuticals.
And I know, just kind of aside, we are also entertaining looking at Maya, right? And just evaluating, are there other plans? You know, how do we evaluate? We give, I think we have one level of plan for our employees, and maybe we'd have to evaluate, is there others long-term? You know, are there other entities? I think there's a state, and then there's
Well-
Maya, and then there's,
Yeah, so the GIC plan for the state has already changed hands twice.
yeah.
So in other words, they're looking for the best program out there.
Mhm.
And they're holding their own, but I don't know how long that's going to happen.
Mhm.
Dental and eyesight, they've done it 4 times now in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
So,
GIC has regrettably picked up some low-hanging fruit as far as municipalities are concerned too. Municipalities that have been in trouble, some of them have hopped over to GIC, which has significantly impacted GIC's rates.
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
understanding is that the legislatures also help them out financially, so.
Yeah, and I think yeah, other than the pharmaceuticals, they have had just, maybe if it's unfortunate luck, certain members have just been like some really large expense that hasn't been normal, right? I mean, that was another comment they had, other than the drugs. They've had several cases that have just been extremely expensive for them this short term here.
Yeah, they've had some very large claims. And I think it also just bears saying that, you know, for anyone who attended the meeting or watched on Zoom or watched the recording of the discussion with Hampshire County Trust, you know, they did show, you know, here were some opportunities over the last few years to vote rate increases. They didn't at the time for a few years, and that was simply because their reserves were so robust.
Yep.
And it's always easier to say, yeah, no increase.
Yes.
You know, obviously there are questions about whether this is catching up. These are really kind of historically crazy numbers that we're talking about.
Right.
So I think there's a recognition there. Yeah.
Yeah, some of this is COVID related, because in the COVID years, there were 0% increases and a lot of people were avoiding going to the hospital. So is some of this the backlog of people getting, you know, major surgery and et cetera, because they were talking about depleting the reserve fund like by 6 or 7 million a month.
Yeah. Huge.
So it went from 20 million reserve to about 5 million over a 3 or 4 month period, and projecting a deficit. My worry is that people who are now on a weight loss drug are going to become on a pre-diabetic drug, and the GLP-1s are just going to be, they'll find a new way to, you know, prescribe them to patients, and it's going to be not solving the problem by saying we're not doing this for weight loss anymore.
Mm. So we'll probably have a town meeting article for free cash, hopefully, kind of
That's
sure
the
up our,
thought, yeah.
our spot. Want to hit on these other items that are senior center will address at one point.
Right, yeah, so we were gonna talk about special town meeting more broadly. I think we were hoping to get a sense of, folks' schedules and what makes sense. Tim, you had tossed out the date of November 3rd, which is the first Monday in November. It's a little later than we normally have done it, I think, but pretty close. So it just wanted to kind of poll the group here. I know, Julie, you've got a few members missing, so we'll want to loop them in. I will say that, Cassie, our town clerk, said that November 3rd would work for her from a logistics standpoint. So that's a good option.
Works for my schedule.
Okay.
You guys know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that works too. We can check with the schools and stuff and see if it's available.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. And then I just wanted to mention a couple other articles. So obviously it sounds like we're going to be talking about the senior center. There's a good chance we will be. A couple other ones I just wanted to highlight real quick. So back in the spring, we had a bylaw change around tax title payment agreements. Turns out our attorneys got it a little bit wrong. And so we're going to have to redo that one.
Okay.
So it's, I
Yeah,
won't,
saw that paper.
yes, it was in the paper.
bummer.
Yeah.
Egg on face.
Yeah, so essentially the issue was, so the Mass General Law that we were adopting had set certain standards around the term of these agreements, and then also the percentage that the initial payment for an agreement would need to include. And the language we got from our attorneys essentially allowed our treasurer collector some discretion in those agreements, and apparently that's a no-go.
There
So
isn't any
the Attorney General said, no, it's got to be, and so we're in a boat with about 10 or 12 other communities, I think, that, are going to have to redo
All
it.
right.
So,
Hopefully that'll
so
be quick.
that's that. DPW capital requests. So if you'll recall, back in the spring when Matthew Moore started as our new superintendent, he was kind of coming in midway through a budget season. We said, why don't you come back at special town meeting, and if you've got capital requests by then, you can be kind of sure that they're a good idea to move forward with. So he's going to be filing some requests with the CIPC in the next month or so. And so I think we can anticipate some kind of, capital requests from that department, which makes sense given what we told him. Pecumtuck Rock, Article 97 designation. If you recall, last fall, we talked about putting that parcel under Article 97 open space rec protection. Decided to hold off because we were concerned about the impact it might have on the utility towers up there. Since then, Open Space Committee got a grant and funded a full survey of that parcel. So we now have a draft survey. The next step really at this point is to actually, talk to those utilities about their operations up there, what might happen if, say, a tower was knocked out, if they needed to replace it, to get a better understanding of where exactly that excluded area should be. So our planner, Alex Galloway, is taking care of that conversation currently. And hopefully it's something that we could get on the fall special town meeting, but if not, it could be an annual item. It's not exactly time sensitive that we'd like to see it get done. And then the last thing I would just note is, we have caught wind that there's likely going to be a citizens petition regarding energy and decarbonization articles, similar to what we saw at annual town meeting. So just wanted to mention that as well. Brenda, if you think of anything else. Yeah. And, we're continuing to just review, our bylaws and zoning bylaws to see if there's any low hanging fruit in terms of just small corrections or anything that we'd want to throw on the warrant as well. But any questions on the special town meeting agenda thus far?
A general question, just a general question on, it's obviously impossible for us to know at this point what the DPW's capital requests are. But I've been very concerned about a lack of programmatic funding for road infrastructure upgrades. Not your, not your typical Chapter 90 paving or line striping or anything like that, but real road infrastructure projects, especially those projects that could help mitigate, the effects of climate change. It would be nice at some point if we could at least consider or discuss some sort of programmatic funding mechanism to start putting money away so that we can address the failing culverts throughout town, the sidewalks, bridges and even dams and things like that, that we're unable to fund right now with the funds we have. If there's, maybe funds, I don't know if we could actually set aside funds, say from the solar project or something like that, that could be put away and actually supplement Chapter 90 or free cash for major infrastructure projects. I just don't want ourselves to, I don't want to find ourselves in the same position we were in a couple of years ago when we just had to react. It'd be nice to try to address these things proactively, at least a little bit.
Well, I know that this doesn't go over well in a lot of venues, but I will say it again, that I have been wanting to look at, Prop 2.5 override for several years. Nobody ever wants to run one when they're up for reelection, and I feel like, I'm up for reelection this year, so I'm happy to take the heat. Or some other way. I just feel like we need to restructure a little bit of our budget. Like we need to roll our SCEMs into free cash. We need to look at funding long-term for these such items for our capital stabilization, which is always like the last animal to get any scrap of money left over from free cash at the end of the year. We always seem to blow it out really fast. I just feel like we should just take a long, hard look at how we fund our town. And if we need to adjust that once, can't remember, maybe it's been way before my time, and I'm sure 10 years before that we've ever had a change in how we fund the government. But things keep getting more expensive every year, health insurance, all these things, and we keep cutting and scraping by to try and get things to happen. I do feel like maybe we all come together and look at this and realize we don't need to do a Prop 2.5, but we really should look at what does it take to put so much aside each year for capital stabilization, for maintenance of our buildings, to roll our SCEMs in, maybe, and that's almost a wash because we pay for it in free cash every year, and recognizing that we're going to have less free cash once we do that, but it would just at least put that in there. And then we would have money set aside that we would start rebuilding our stabilization accounts too, looking at we had a meeting about Moody's beginning of the week here about the change in our bond rating going from AA2 to AA3. We've only been at that for a couple of years, but one of the reasons is that we were spending down our reserves and they were concerned about Yankee Candle leaving. I don't think they factored in some of the other things that have benefited us in the area, but it is what it is. I just feel like we should take an earnest look at our budget, look at the last several years, look at the years going forward and the expenses, and figure out how to set that money aside. And we are lucking out with this solar thing. We will have an influx of money for a good 10 years. I know that doesn't fix us, but it could buy us that time that we don't need to do a Prop 2.5 for another 10 years. But we should just look at how we want to spend that money going forward and make sure that we have money for stabilization going forward.
Trevor, we're looking at a group to put together to be looking at specifically
it's
to be
important.
looking at this?
I think it's important to do.
I do too, because I really don't want to see a Prop 2.5, and if they can come up
Well, we'll
with
do it
some
on
better
we'll
answers,
do it on
that'd be
your election then.
great.
So I have been talking about, I talked to Julie, I talked to Christopher about asking the schools, the largest portion of our budget, to do an experiment, which is what would it cost in programs, et cetera, to have a zero budget, flat budget. I think that that's part of the large discussion of, if we're going to look at how we spend money, we have to look there, and we need to have that done ahead of this year's finance committee meetings where the budgets are delivered. I don't know where that stands, but I think you're going to talk to Darius about some other issues soon. I would really like to see that pushed forward. Maybe it's done every 10 years, and in the context of programs that are paid for by DA. Are those programs necessary to the educational program, or can we ask them to give us more money in tax revenue and not pay for these buses? I mean, all these things are large questions, and nobody wants to give anything up. But, and I'm not suggesting they should, I'm just saying that you have to talk about it in order to figure out whether it's necessary. So that's my 2 cents for.
So I was a little confused by that. What do you mean a zero budget?
Well, in other words,
Flat-
if
a
flat budget,
for the
so
year.
Level funding.
level funding. Yeah, sorry, I'm,
That's all right. No, I just
Well, I mean,
confused about-
there's two different things here, though. So there's zero-based budgeting,
right,
where you're asking departments to build up and justify
Right.
their budgets from the floor,
right.
and then there's level funding.
Yeah, I mean, either one of those things would be a good exercise. If you're building your budget up from the floor, you're going to find a way to make it be the budget you want, as opposed to what would it actually mean programmatically if I don't know where this country's going, and I don't know where the federal government's funding for a lot of programs are going. So I worry that, if we don't prepare now and something bad happens, we don't know what our options are. And we're in a lot better place if we've done a study and did an experiment and said, okay, we're not going to do this now, but these are the things we could do, rather than having something bad happen.
Tim even set parallel priorities. So
Right.
you're talking about operating budget, and we could have a parallel priority with capital stabilization, especially to
Yeah.
deal with the hugely costly road infrastructure
Right.
projects. So I don't know. I personally feel that the finance committee could tackle some of this discussion to at least maybe brainstorm to start. I think that might be our job.
Yeah, I think that would be
Love to-
great. I'm,
Love to partake or happy to,
Could I just speak to the Chapter 90?
yeah.
You aren't aware. Usually we get a little less than 400,000 every year from the state. Last year, we got the additional rural aid that brought it up to about 540,000. I was just looking at it this afternoon.
I'm going to have a good one
And
this
for
year.
fiscal 26, we've got 811,000.
It's huge.
So right now, we have a balance of about $1.5 million, which is really quite nice for us.
Yeah.
So. just
Thank
to
you,
throw that
Natalie
in there.
Blay.
What's that?
Thank you, Natalie Blay and Joe
Yes.
Comerford. They
Yeah.
have been working hard and putting that towards, that other extra funding is road miles only, if people don't know, and that's a huge help for us.
Brenda, my understanding that's part of like a 5-year bond bill. So does
Is
that
it
mean,
okay?
does that mean that we're looking at 800,000 for a 5-year period, or? Just be something-
Maybe not quite that much, but I don't know. We had over 500,000 last year.
Yeah.
We have 800,000 this year. I don't know
Yeah.
what it'll be
The-
next year, but
I think the bond bill really only got voted or signed in for 2 years at the moment because they weren't sure about the long-term effects of where we're going as a
but if
nation.
if you remember, we paved Upper Road and what was the other large road?
River.
River Road.
Yep.
And those were big projects that Kevin was
Couple-year
waiting
thing.
for, trying to build up money over a number of years to do.
Yep.
And it really depleted, but to say that we're now, right now at 1.5 million is great.
Sherman
I
Drive
just
is
think
in
it's
really
great news. that-
Horrible shape.
What's that?
Sherman Drive is in horrible shape.
South Main, South Mill River Road, let's see, Hillside.
So did River Road get redone, the part that was falling apart? that we
I
were
think it
talking
was
about?
just like a mile of it, right? That
Oh.
River
got
Road?
Done, was it, or was it more than that?
We did a large,
Did-
when
did we
Kevin
do a
was here,
large-
yeah, we did a large section of it,
Yeah.
and then we still have those.
I was wondering if the other piece had gotten done. That's
I
still.
don't think
that's still outstanding.
so. Yeah,
Okay.
we still have that embankment to deal with. I know we shored it up quite a bit, but I know that's still hanging there for the next storm.
Are we still talking about
think
town
that was-
meeting?
Oh, yeah, right.
I want to throw two things out there. One is the time of town meeting, like date, time thing. Do
Mhm.
we want to, we put it together a survey. Do we want to issue that survey and ask
Sure.
people? I would like to see us push town meeting later
Yep.
as much of as a month, and we have it kind of worked out. The only outstanding piece was surveying town residents about whether they would prefer a weekday evening, a Saturday morning, a Sunday afternoon. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's ready to go if anybody,
I'm in favor of
Yeah.
finding out what people want, for
you're
sure.
good with that?
It was
Okay.
great to have daycare last time at our last meeting. That was helpful, I think.
Good. Okay. So I guess I'll get hold of you and see what to do next. All right.
We can
The,
coordinate
o-
on that.
the other comment, and this is just a comment, somebody said in passing, and I don't think anybody's proposing this, that we cover the change in the senior center budget with, if we were to lease this building with what's our thing? Reserve fund. And I personally am
No.
opposed to that. I think the town needs to vote
Oh, for
this.
sure.
If,
Yeah, no,
okay,
no.
so if
Was
if
that
that
set
idea
here?
is out there, I don't know where I
If it
saw
was
it,
set
but
here, it was by accident.
I don't think that is a good plan.
No, no, not at all.
No.
Everybody needs to vote on what they want
Yeah.
going forward. It's not a
Good.
reserve fund at all.
And I have a question. Trevor mentioned the rolling skims into our budget. Would that require the other two towns to do that as well?
No,
No,
no, it's
No.
just our fund.
it's just how we fund.
It's
it.
just a way to pay for it, yeah.
Our percent.
They can do whatever they want.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep,
And
they
the
can
only
fund it.
problem that would happen is if they defaulted on what their share was, then
Yeah.
we'd have to.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we can do it any way we want. Yep.
Good.
Well, we've talked about it for a long time. We haven't done it because we never really sure how things, but it's been 10 years now. I think we know what the budget is, right? I mean, that's why we held off paying for it out of free cash for all that time, right? Skems, we paved that out of free cash for all these years because we really weren't sure the budget and the long-term kind of where this is all going, correct? Yeah. We're still holding out hope. But I feel like it's been long enough that we should be able to move that into the budget. I don't, it's up to everyone else too.
Great.
Do you want to hit on your, just update? people
Yeah,
what-
just
for
some
projects?
general other updates that we wanted to share. So big news, new town accountant, is new sheriff in town. Yep. Holly Drake, who was here meeting with Brenda this morning. We're all really excited to have her. She's going to be joining just after Labor Day. And we'll see how long we can hang on to Brenda, help train her up. But she's
Yeah.
got 25 years experience with the town of Amherst in a variety of financial positions. So I think she's going to be able to hit the ground running, and we're really excited.
Yes.
I did want to highlight also assistant DPW super. So that's a position that's been vacant for a few months at this point. Matthew Morse does have a candidate he's putting before the select board. Kyle Bassett from the city of Montague, I guess it is. And so he another great candidate, and we're excited to be talking about him. And then I did just want to highlight recreation director. So Sue Antonellis, who's been the longtime rec director, is going to be leaving us at the end of the month. We do have a couple interviews lined up for candidates this week. And so we're hoping in the next couple of weeks to be, filling that position as well. So just wanted to share that and see if there were any other questions about personnel updates. We'll be having a personnel board meeting tomorrow night. Yep, Trevor.
There would just with Sue's retirement, there is a party, it's on the 30th, I believe. Don't know that for sure, but yeah, on her last day, that Chicken Wire is going to play, and there's just bounce house and stuff. So if you get a chance to stop in and thank her for all the time that she's and all the effort her and her husband have spent on our children's, recreation time, just please do that. She would love to see everybody. I know that for sure.
30th is Saturday.
Then it could be the 29th. I've got to check. I'll check. I can go grab that one.
There's
Yeah, there's
a sign in the middle of town or something.
Yeah, on the common there.
Saturday.
The 30th.
From what to what?
Kids' activities are from 12:30 to 3, and Chicken Wire performs from 3:30 to 5:30. So There'll be bounce house, slide, obstacle course, face painting, balloon sculptures, food, music, so food truck. Should be a fun time.
Great. And then I know I'll try to make it quick, but I know Julie, you'd want to get some updates on just town projects that are going on. So I'll hit these really quick because there are a lot. 1888 building, I think last we spoke, we were at a special town meeting to approve a notice of interest from the federal government in that property. As you may recall, the project came in well under bid at 5.9 million. We've signed a contract with WJ Mountford, who was that low bidder. And currently they are, starting to poke around in the building, and we're just waiting on USDA to actually approve the obligation of funds, which we're expecting any day at this point. So I know I've probably said that before, but they're excited about the project too. So, and we had a great little kind of soft kickoff meeting with WJ Mountford. Everyone left the meeting feeling pretty good about the selection of contractor. So
Right.
in good shape. Tilton Library, we don't have an elevator yet. And of course we don't have an architectural access board waiver yet either. So we are waiting on both of those pieces. And the waiver we're, hoping to see come through in the next couple weeks. And then we'll kind of have that conversation about, the opportunity to move the library into that space without an elevator and what that means and what that requires for a temporary occupancy permit. Elm Street Complete Streets. So we ended up going out for a second grant this spring, thanks to our new planner. So that we're still waiting to see award of that grant. It's a grant the name has changed actually a couple times. It's essentially MassWorks, if folks are familiar with that. And this is specifically set aside for small town roads. So the additional funding sought would cover basically the repaving of that section of Elm Street between Railroad and Main, as well as some utility work. And it kind of nice, dovetails with the sewer and stormwater asset management plan we're undertaking at the same time with DPC. So good opportunity there. And so we'll see after October or so whether or not we're able to get those additional funds. Town Common related project, the stormwater asset management project I just mentioned is kind of critical to that as well, and that's ongoing. We are looking to set up a meeting with MassDOT in the near future to discuss the possibility of using some earmarked funds from a transportation bond bill to actually, do some of the work that they're interested in that would allow us to do the common work that we've been interested in. So we'll scratch their backs, they'll scratch ours. Everyone will walk away happy. Yes.
Are they going to do anything with Park Street? I know that we were talking about they were going to do a study for shutting it down.
Yeah, and I would have
didn't get that.
I would have to ask
We
Alex. I
didn't
think they nixed that.
They
I
nixed
think.
that.
Yeah. So FERCog
Short-sighted.
had some funds to look at it, and I think MassDOT said we're not interested at this time. So.
Yep.
Yeah. So still trying to aiming to kind of align some of that work with some of the work that happens on Elm Street as well.
Yep.
So more to come on that. Landfill solar, we're just finalizing the decommissioning plan for that. Still waiting on the 100% payment bond and performance bond. Nexamp says it's in the mail, so we should see it soon. And their aim is actually to kind of break ground on the access road this fall, and then break ground on the rest of the project at some point in the warmer months next year. So stay tuned on that. Yep. Yeah, and so there's been a lot of conversation about this. So essentially, they're not going to create like a new entrance for that access road. And in the discussions we've had at the pre-construction meeting, the plan is basically any material deliveries or anything like that will happen on transfer station off days, so it won't tie up that entrance. And then on the plan, you'll actually see they have a specific sort of lane, kind of closer to that hugs the road sort of and stays away from the rest of the transfer station, and they'll be using that to get through that paved area where the transfer station is. Stillwater Bridge, so we do have a house docket number, so that bill has been filed. Currently we're waiting on conversations between DCR, who's the entity with the conservation restriction on the land that's going to be impacted by the bridge, and MassDOT, who is actually funding the project. They've got MassDOT has multiple projects that are kind of being held up currently over Article 97 concerns. So I think they're trying to work out a bigger conversation there. We're a little bit stuck in the middle, but at least, the legislation has been filed, and then we're also working with DCR on easement options to access that mitigation parcel that we've identified on the Deerfield River there. So that's where that stands currently.
Yep.
Senior housing, real quick. There was an RFP back in the winter. We didn't receive any responses. We did have a follow-up meeting with Rural Development Inc., the Franklin County Housing Authority's development wing. Got some good ideas out of that. I think it's still being kind of talked about amongst the committee. Alex, our new planner, is also looking into it. And so we're hoping to kind of come up with a game plan for next steps on that, whether it just focuses on that parcel or looks at, other parcels in town. That's yet to be seen, but we had a good conversation with RDI. And so we're hoping that can kind of be rolled into a plan moving forward. And then stormwater asset management, I think I already mentioned this, and I believe DPC is going out for some additional funds.
Well, I got a call from Dave the other day just to update you that SRF said that they will not entertain any applications from people who have applied and won the year before, which we think is, I'm not going to say it in this open meeting. So I'd like to put together a sternly worded letter and talk with the legislature about this, because, if you look, the Cape will get $100 million to do stuff. We're getting 100,000, and nobody in Western Mass is getting any money from SRF. It's so minute. That they need to spread that money around. It cannot all stay in the eastern part of the state, along with every other grant program they have. It's just, yes, we've had some successes here, but if you look overall, the West, and I don't care who's been here for years, have said, studies have been done from the auditor's office. The western part of the state is always ignored, and especially with the SRF program. We're asking for short money to do asset management and planning. Everybody else is getting hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars to do projects. So Dave was a little hot when he called me, and so we're going to try and calm down and come up with a plan to advocate. So that's where we're at on those. But we are moving forward with the stuff that we have already this current year.
Right. And then I already mentioned the Comtuck Rock survey and Article 97 project, and then just wanted to mention Bloody Brook and Sugarloaf Brook resilience projects. So those are MVP funded projects. I believe we've got a set of draft recommendations from our. If Carolyn was here, she would say the word fluvial
something.
Geomorphologists. So we've got some recommendations, and they're going to be zooming in on some of those recommendations in the second year of the project. And then also, I believe we're going to have a little workshop. It's really targeted actually at our seniors who are homeowners along the brook. Talk about the impacts from the brook, and also, what we could do to better take care of that body of water, or both bodies of water, actually.
Yeah.
So that's what I had on my project list, but happy to entertain questions from anyone if they have them.
What a project list.
Yep.
Good for
And
you.
luckily, we got a great team now.
We
So
do have a great team.
Yeah.
So grateful.
Let's hope that WJ Mountford has experience ordering elevators.
We've told them you can't order from Schneider, which is the contractor for the library.
Yeah.
And the good news is that they have a project completion move-in date in November of 2026.
Great.
So
That's great. Looking good.
That actually touches on something that came up at the last library meeting. Right. Is how that construction is going to affect the access to the interim library's entrance right now. Because right now it's on that side, and basically people have to be able to get to the library if we're going to be open. And
Right. So I would say if we get the architectural access board waiver, that's certainly a point in favor of moving the library over sooner rather
Yeah.
than later.
For sure.
Because obviously there will be a new library parking lot, but it doesn't have an immediate access
get
to the,
there.
yep, exactly,
Correct.
yep. And the fencing that would be required for the 1888 building will essentially take up all but a good portion of that parking lot between the Congregational Church and the 1888 building. So that's, we're gonna have limited options there.
So one thing which occurred to me is, would it be possible perhaps for some of the town offices to use the library parking lot to free up some space for library patrons over there?
Oh, interesting thought. Yeah, I'm happy to start a volunteer movement of town employees who will park over there and get a little more exercise, but yeah, that's a thought, yeah.
Well, certainly the project argues against being able to occupy the church space during construction. It's just not going to be practical for the library to remain there. So we're going to just have to assume that the access board is going to give us a waiver. What did Lisa tell you about North Newburyport? Oh, their library operating for a year?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just chatting with Lisa, our town council, about this, and she was saying, Newburyport had operated. I can't recall if it was a year, but it was some period of time for without an elevator. And so, other libraries have gotten
done it.
these access waivers and managed to make it work. And
Yeah.
then, obviously, all libraries used to not have an elevator. So,
True.
Well, and even when ours did, it didn't.
Right. True. That's true too. Anything else anybody have? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn for the select board till tomorrow or Wednesday.
Moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Right, so
Second.
all those in favor?
Blake Gilmore, aye.
Tim Elchi, aye.
Trevor McDaniel, aye.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I moved, yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, unanimous.
Thank you all. I really appreciate you taking time to come in today and